Level 1. The candidate. You arrive at sniper school carrying more weight than you want to admit, not just in your ruck, in your expectations. The air is thick, the kind of heat that makes breathing feel like work. You step into formation and instantly feel it. Eyes on you. Instructors aren't yelling yet. They don't need to. They're watching, sorting the group into categories without telling you the result. Strong, questionable, temporary. Someone casually mentions the attrition rate, like it's a weather report. Most of you won't finish. No drama, no motivation speech, just a fact. The first week isn't about shooting, it's about disappearing. You learn to move across open ground without looking like movement. You learn that the terrain is not something you cross, it's something you become. You crawl through mud and grass for hours. You move inches at a time. You stop when the wind stops. You move when the wind moves. Instructors scan the field with binoculars like predators. If they see you, if they catch one shimmer of skin, one wrong angle, one impatient shift, you reset, back to the start. You build a ghillie suit from rough material, and whatever the environment gives you, you weave it together until you don't look like a person anymore. You look like a problem for someone else to solve. You learn a brutal truth early. A sniper's greatest skill isn't shooting, it's patience. You watch candidates drop out in quiet waves. One quits after a cold night where his hands stop working like hands. Two get removed for range safety mistakes that they insist were no big deal. One simply doesn't show up. His bed is stripped by morning, like he was never there. You stay, not because you feel fearless, because you refuse to imagine leaving. Then the shooting begins. And it's not what you expected. You thought you knew rifles. You thought you understood distance. But this is a different science. Wind isn't one thing. It's layers. It shifts at the muzzle, mid-flight and near the target. Heat bends the air and lies to your eyes. Gravity is honest, but unforgiving. You learn to stop guessing. You learn to calculate. And then you learn that even calculation isn't enough, because the world keeps changing while you do math. The culminating exercise is designed to break you without touching you. Days in the field, minimal rest, minimal food, stalks under evaluation, shots under pressure. Your brain narrows to one task at a time. You stop thinking about your life back home. You stop thinking about what comes after. You think about the next breath, the next movement, the next correction. The instructors aren't just measuring your accuracy. They're watching your mind. They're waiting for the moment something cracks. Some candidates perform perfectly until they don't. A quiet snap, a small mistake that grows, and then they're done. Not humiliated, just recognized as unfit for this work. You make it through, not as the best, not as the worst, just competent enough to be trusted. You receive your designation and orders, and suddenly it's real. Level 2, the spotter. You join a sniper team as the junior member, which means you spot. You don't get the glory, you get responsibility. Your shooter is experienced, the kind of experienced that shows up in habits. He chooses seats facing exits. He scans rooftops without thinking. He sleeps lightly and wakes quickly. He doesn't talk about what he's seen, but it's there, in the pauses, in the way his eyes stay slightly ahead of the present moment. You learn quickly that the spotter is not the assistant. The spotter is the external brain. You estimate range. You read wind. You confirm targets. You document everything. Your shooter's world becomes trigger control, breath, and execution. Your world becomes everything else. Your first deployment is to a place you don't name. A conflict that exists in rumors and briefings. Rules of engagement that change like weather. Enemies without uniforms. Threats that look like civilians. Until they don't. You learn to read the small signs. Hands that won't relax. A posture that doesn't match the setting. A pattern that breaks slightly before violence begins. Then it happens. The first time you watch a human being go from alive to not alive because your team decided it had to happen. A confirmed hostile. Weapon present. Clear intent. You call the wind. Your shooter takes the shot. The round arrives before the sound. 1 second, a man is preparing to fire. The next second, he's not. You expect to feel something dramatic. Horror, triumph, Shame. What you feel is procedural. A clean action completed. A threat removed. Then your mind moves on to the next task, because it has to. Your shooter watches you afterward, not judging, checking. He's seen spotters break right here, where training becomes reality. You don't crack. And that's either a good sign or something you'll understand later. Over months, you learn what school can't teach, how certain valleys turn wind into chaos at predictable times, how morning air behaves differently from afternoon air, how to build a hide where no perfect hide exists, how to walk away from a shot you want because patience is safer than ego. You become a unit. Two minds operating like one. Level 3. The shooter. Eventually, your shooter rotates out. Another deployment ends. Another man takes the weight home. You don't see his breaking point in the field. You see it later, in the small signs. The shortened temper, the long silences, the way the laughter doesn't reach his eyes. He leaves, and you become the shooter. Not because it's ceremonial, because the team needs one. Your first shot as primary shooter is almost disappointing. Mid-range, stable conditions, clear confirmation, breath, pause, squeeze, impact, confirm, move. It's the difficult shots that teach you what you've become. There's an operation involving hostages, a tight window. Intelligence suggests they're alive. Barely. Your team sets up far out, farther than you've ever shot under real conditions. Wind is inconsistent. Thermals drift through the valley like invisible hands pushing your round around. Your spotter gives you numbers, then different numbers, then a correction to the correction. You wait. Hours. You watch guards rotate and memorize their patterns. You see the hostages appear briefly in a doorway, faces you recognize from photos. Alive now. Maybe not later. The target you need presents for seconds. Just enough. You compute. Then you stop computing and let experience finish the job. You make the shot. The target drops. The assault begins. Minutes later, the hostages are moving. Then they're gone. Lifted away. Alive. And you're dismantling your hide in fading light, feeling something you rarely feel anymore. Not pride, not joy. Something quieter. A weight shifting slightly. Because this time, the outcome is not just removal. It's rescue. It doesn't erase what you do, but it changes the shape of it. Level 4. The instructor. They send you back to the schoolhouse. Now you stand where the instructors once stood. Candidates arrive convinced they're different. You recognize their faces. The confident ones who haven't been tested yet. The anxious ones who might be better than they think. Teaching forces you to understand what you do. Not just how, but why. You correct grip. You correct breathing. You correct patience. Because patience is what kills ego, and ego is what kills teams. You watch candidates fail in familiar ways. Some crumble after a bad stalk. Some panic under time pressure. Some argue with physics. You learn to predict who will last. It's not the strongest. It's not always the most talented. It's the one who treats failure as data, adjusts, improves, keeps going. You become known for harsh feedback, but precise. You don't insult. You diagnose. The graduates from your cycle perform well downrange. That's the only metric that matters. And still, teaching creates distance. Ranges aren't combat. Paper isn't a person. Training doesn't carry the same consequence. Your edge remains in skill, but dulls slightly in readiness. Then an opportunity comes. One more deployment. You take it, because part of you misses the clarity, that uncomfortable truth. You miss the narrowed world where all distractions fall away. Level 5. The team leader. You return to the unit older, in ways that don't show up on paper. Your joints remember every hour spent motionless in bad positions. Your recovery time stretches. The team is younger now. Different slang, different references, technology that wasn't part of your early career. They call you old man. With respect they don't fully understand. Now you lead. Because experience compounds. You've watched good shooters fail from impatience. You've watched average shooters succeed through discipline. You know what tendencies to trust and which ones to override. Your deployment is to a place that is not a war. Operations that don't officially happen. Targets higher value. Intelligence better. Stakes sharper. You take a long shot during a time-critical window. The kind of shot people repeat afterward. It becomes a story, then a legend. Each retelling adds distance and certainty. You don't correct them. Morale has value. But privately, you know the truth. Skill matters. So does luck. Wind cooperated at the exact moment it needed to. The target paused just long enough. Physics leaned your way. The shot that stays with you isn't the famous one. It's the mistake. A target that fit the pattern. Movement that looked wrong. Intelligence that seemed solid. You took the shot. Perfect execution. Wrong outcome. After-action reviews clear you. Rules of engagement clear you. Paperwork clears you. But the memory doesn't. You carry it quietly, because feeling nothing would be worse. You learn this about yourself. The soldiers who feel nothing scare you more than the soldiers who feel too much. At least pain proves the conscience still exists, even if it hurts. Level 6. The Master. No one officially gives you the title. It's earned in the way younger people look at you. Like you've survived something rare. You rotate between operations and development now. Testing new optics, new ballistic tools. Systems that promise to automate the hard parts. To remove human error. But you know what the engineers don't. The human error is also the human judgment. The hesitation that prevents disaster. The intuition that catches what sensors miss. The moral weight that keeps the work bounded. Make it too automatic, and you risk creating a machine with no conscience. Your final deployment is strangely calm. Routine, as much as this can ever be routine. And that makes it harder, because you know it's ending. Knowing changes everything. You pay attention to details you used to ignore. A sunrise over an empty ridge. The quiet before a mission. The way your team laughs in short bursts like it's borrowed time. Your last shot is not cinematic. Confirmed hostile. Medium distance. Standard conditions. Professional execution. You don't even realize it's your last until you're on the transport home. Then it hits you. You'll never do this again. Years of operations. Kills you stopped counting because counting felt wrong. Faces you'll never forget. Some justified. Some complicated. Some haunting. You've trained shooters who trained shooters. Your techniques will live on in people who don't know your name. You return home with an identity that doesn't dissolve just because the deployment ended. The vigilance stays. The scanning stays. The body remembers. The mind remembers. The scope goes into a case. The case goes into a closet. And you try to build a civilian surface. A life where you are not what you were trained to be. Some nights, you dream about shots you didn't take. The moments you waited. The moments you chose patience over action. You wonder who lived because you hesitated and what they did with that life afterward. You will never know. That's the work. One breath at a time. One decision at a time. A discipline that holds until it doesn't. You wanted to be the best shot in the room, but what you became was someone who learned how to live with every shot you made.